House Beneviento is definitely the creepier segment of Resident Evil Village, but beyond the hallucinations and animated dolls, I think there is an even creepier tale to be told here. Spoiler warning, if you haven't finished Resident Evil Village yet, there may be spoilers for the entire game, so this is your warning to click off if you want to avoid spoilers. So first, let's establish the basics that we can all understand. House Beneviento had only one remaining member, Donna Beneviento. She was the last surviving member of the house since her parents and her younger relative, possibly her sister, Claudia, had all died. Donna was one of Mother Miranda's experiments just like all the other bosses in Resident Evil 8, and her unique power with the Kadu was the ability to secrete a signal-producing substance from flowers infected by the mutamycete, essentially causing people to hallucinate when they breathe in the pollen. She also figured out how to split her Kadu and spread it amongst her dolls in order to be able to control them from a distance. This is how Angie, her mini corpse bride, manages to come to life. That's the obvious stuff, but there are clues all around this area that point to there being more going on here, and it seems like Donna might have a much darker history than you realise. It's at this point in the video that I want to say most of the clues here are very vague and ambiguous, so much so that I'm not entirely convinced we will ever know the real history, but I'm going to offer some ideas and possible explanations, and it's up to you to decide whether you agree with them or not. So firstly, let's take a closer look at Angie. Angie always bugged me slightly on my first playthrough. At first I thought she was alive, but then we quickly realised that she's a doll. But something is very different about Angie when you compare her to all the other dolls in the house. We know that House Beneviento was known for its doll makers, and it's not entirely clear if Donna has inherited this skill, but either way there are plenty of dolls around this house, but they all look fairly similar in how they are made. Angie, however, is much taller, more ragged, and is held together by chain links. In fact, she looks like she was made that way. I have two possible explanations for this, an obvious one and then a much darker one. Angie was made by Donna's father, and she seems to be modelled after Donna. Angie has marks on her face, she's wearing a gown and veil like Donna, and she also has a part of the Kadu just like Donna. In essence, she is a mini Donna, and this actually makes sense with Donna's character. Donna was a very shy person, and she had a lot of personal issues with her looks. She had a scar across her face and had always feared others. In fact, after Donna is given the Kadu, she begins to talk to the staff through the doll, probably as it's more comfortable for her to have people to talk to the doll than to look at her face. Pretty obvious stuff, but there are a lot of missing elements here that I want to explore. So why is Angie so different to all the other dolls? It's possible that Donna's father isn't the great doll maker of House Beneviento, or that he wanted to make a special doll just for Donna. But there is something that bugged me from the beginning about Angie, and that is, what is she made out of? She looks to be made out of wood, but honestly, why would Donna's father chain the doll together like this if she were made out of wood, and why do the pieces of her arm look like bone? Maybe because she is made out of bone. Whose bones? Claudia's. Alright, hear me out on this one. The main hidden treasure in this area can be found in Claudia Beneviento's grave. A grave that you have to travel all the way back to the village, grab half a stone tablet, go all the way back, fight through a bunch of monsters just to open up the grave and collect Benegario's chalice. But none of this really made sense to me. If you look at the gravestone, it says Claudia Beneviento 1987 to 1996. This means she was 9 years old when she died. I'm no expert, but the skeleton in the grave seems to be far too big to be a 9-year-old girl. Not only that, why would Claudia be buried with a chalice that seems to be an heirloom of House Beneviento? This skeleton also seems to be thrown into the grave and not buried with the care that a family would usually give to a burial, especially that of a child. Usually people are placed on their back with their arms folded or at their sides. This skeleton seems to have been thrown in with the chalice, leading me to believe that this is not the skeleton of Claudia. So if this isn't Claudia's skeleton, where is it? Look again at Angie. Those arms look like they are made out of bone. Sure, they aren't the exact same shape, but bone carving has existed for a long time. So why could this happen? Well, it's possible that the hallucinations Donna caused started before her parents died. After all, they seem to have died at the same time, which to me implies it was some sort of accident or murder. It's possible they died due to the lichens in this area, but what if they fell under the effects of the mutated flower before Donna learned how to control it? This could also explain why Donna's father made such a strange doll for her. He was out of his mind on yellow flowers. In the world of Resident Evil, green herbs make you feel better, but you never touch the yellow herbs. It's possible that Donna's father, while under the effects of the flower, dug up Claudia's grave and took her remains to create Angie, not realising what he was doing. There is more evidence that could suggest this though. The sigil of House Beneviento is a sun and moon crest. Not only is this a callback to previous Resident Evil games, but the sun and moon has a number of different meanings across different cultures. The sun and moon can sometimes be a sign of dreams, creativity, and rebirth. All three of those themes fit within this game. Creativity could be a reference to the dollmaker. Dreams obviously refers to hallucinations caused by the flowers, and rebirth, well, that one could be a reference to how Donna brings the dolls to life with the Kadu, or more literally, that she is subtly bringing her dead family member back to life. This could also explain the death of Donna's parents. If they were both hallucinating as bad as Ethan was, it's possible they attacked each other. This idea is reinforced by the way the player attacks Angie several times, only for the shock reveal at the end that we were attacking Donna the whole time. I use shock reveal very loosely. Perhaps this is why Donna wears the mourning gown. This black dress with a black veil is a traditional dress worn by people mourning the death of a loved one. Although usually worn at funerals, sometimes people choose to wear them for longer. Perhaps Donna is wearing the mourning gown because she feels guilt at how the flower that she controls killed her family. It's also possible that Donna chooses to continue wearing it as a good excuse to cover her face. Speaking of her gown though, Angie wears a wedding gown. I think this is a hint towards Donna and what she wants. She was always an incredibly shy person, and she eventually uses her doll to be able to talk to people. Maybe Donna dreams of finding a husband, but with no viable options, plays pretend with her doll Angie instead. Which is even creepier if she is the reanimated corpse of her family member. But Donna's need for a family can be further explained by how she interacts with Ethan. The other bosses in this game generally attack Ethan on sight or try to take him out in some way. Lady Dimitrescu wants Ethan dead, she admits as such at the meeting. Moreau admits to wanting to kill Ethan to be better than his siblings. Heisenburg offers to work with Ethan to take down Miranda, but then tries to take Ethan out when he refuses. Donna is the only one who doesn't seem to have a clear agenda for Ethan. She traps him down in the basement with some very mild Saw-like puzzles, and she only seems to attack him when he's about to leave. She even states as much, "I can't let you leave." But one thing that bugged me this entire time is that Donna absolutely could have taken Ethan out. While under the effect of the flower toxin, Ethan only sees Donna when she wants him to. He sees her briefly before we have to play hide and seek with Angie, and then it's revealed that the doll we chase and attack actually is Donna. So if she has the ability to remain hidden or disguised, why didn't she simply attack Ethan while he was vulnerable? I have two theories on this one. Either she was trying to keep him contained so that Miranda could come and get him, or she genuinely didn't want him to leave. Both theories have merit, but the latter is definitely more poignant. Knowing that Donna lost her entire family, only has a doll for a friend, and even her current adopted family don't seem to pay her much attention either. Notice how at the meeting, Donna doesn't seem to speak out once. Angie does, and Donna does seem to speak to Angie like she is a child, which further reinforces the little sister theory. But none of the family seem to even acknowledge Donna at all. Heisenburg tells them, "Shut the fuck up," which is the only time the entire family interacts with Donna at all. Obviously this family is a dysfunctional one, but in the feuds that this family have, Donna is the only one that seems to stay out of the family clashes. So perhaps Donna is just lonely. Not only was she super shy before she got her own powers, but now that she has them, anyone who visits her ends up hallucinating to fatal consequences. We also know that Donna at least sometimes enjoys the fact that she has power over people. In one memo we learn that Donna invited one of her family's staff to visit her so she could be with her family again. This implies she murdered the staff member, but it's also a subtle hint that she did it with the intentions of reuniting a family. Sinister? Absolutely, but with a clear focus on family once more. It's absolutely clear to me that Donna has so many dolls to fill a void caused by her lost family, and possibly her lack of threat towards Ethan was because she genuinely wanted to enjoy his company for as long as she could. After all, she only attacks Ethan once he is close to leaving, and even then, we can't be sure that any of that actually happened since Ethan was still hallucinating. In the part where we chase Angie, she only bites us when we grab her, and then she runs away again, and once we finally end the fight, her response is, "What are you doing to my cute friends?" She doesn't seem to be the aggressor here, we are, which is very interesting considering that we know Ethan is a monster in his own right. So there we have it, Donna Beneviento's story is full of tragedy like most of the inhabitants of the village. I really enjoyed this segment of the game, and I truly hope you enjoyed my theories on this one. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.